Hey guys, come with me on this hunt. I want it to be the feel of like a live stream where you can just come along with me and we're going to go metal detect. We're going to talk as we're going, stop when we find something. In this video, I talk about the topic of getting new permissions. I know that's a big thing. Actually, that's everything in metal detecting is you need places to go. So there's a lot of videos out there. There's things written. How do you get new permissions? I've been pretty successful with getting permissions. And here I'm going to talk about it, give you some of the ideas that have worked for me. Try them, don't, just my opinion. But let's go metal detecting. Hey guys, welcome to my video. We're back in a field that I've been in a lot. I found some pretty cool stuff. I explained in a previous video that this field I'm in right now, you can see it's an open field. It's getting grown over right now, but there is a road that cuts right through two sides of the field. The road's more obvious during the summer when crops are planted on either side. But anyhow, right now it's kind of got a cover crop planted, so it's disguising everything. But this field dates back to the 1700s. I've found early 1700s flat button. I found a lot of buttons. I found a musket ball back to the Revolutionary War. So this property has got some history to it. It's just a fascinating property because I have found a lot of arrowheads, buttons from workers that have worked the fields over the past 100 plus years, coins. It's just a mix of everything. So I have primarily detected the right side of the field right here, and I'm probably going to a little bit today. On the left side of the field, I believe, is where an old home site was, an old house. There's some old brick kind of poking out of the ground here and there. I found a lot of pottery, pieces of old porcelain, a lot of square nails. Off to the left here, it is pretty trashy in terms of a lot of that. But out here on the left side of the field, further out, this corner right here is, I think, where the house was. But out here on the left going forward, I haven't really detected. And I'm going to try to do that today. And kind of, because it's really an unknown. On the right side of the field here, there's just a lot of stuff. And I know there's more, but I'm just curious to kind of dip my toe in the water and try the left side of the field. See what we can come up with. I just got my headphones back from Minelab, my ML105s that come with the Manticore, just up and stopped. So I mailed them back, went online, created a ticket, sent them in, and I was shocked. 9 days after I put them in the mail at the post office, 9 days later I got them back, a brand new pair. See, right here, there's a piece of brick, well, a full brick sticking out. There's a brick right there, brick right there. We had a big rainstorm about 2 days ago, so I think it's uncovered a lot of the, well, shoot, I've never seen it like that. Brick. Geez, yeah, it has uncovered a lot. So, yeah, I think this is where the house was. I want to kind of get away from this area right here. Just because it is so trashy, and I don't want to spend a lot of time kind of sifting through this stuff. I am definitely going to on a different day, but I kind of want to get away from this section. Yeah, lots of signals in here. With the Manticore, with the 2D screen, which other detectors don't have, aside from hearing tones, seeing numbers, I've got this 2D screen to where my targets will display on this, either in the discriminated out areas, in the gray, top and bottom, Those are going to be ferrous or iron. I'm looking for targets here in the middle. Not only in the middle, but I want to see how they display. If it's a solid like circle, that's a good solid target. If it just looks like shooting stars or kind of garbled, then a lot of times that's like a soda can. So it was said before, did a premiere the other day. It was a lot of fun because we could do live chat, and I just had a blast. Everyone, it was an hour video actually here in this field. Found some cool stuff, but the whole time everyone was chatting, and that was a lot of fun. Came up, I'd mentioned my headphones. Some people said that actually a lot of people said that they don't detect with headphones. I do. I like it, not only because it just, I don't know, I don't like really having a lot of noise or creating a lot of noise where people that live nearby or whatever could be kind of poking their head up, investigating, seeing what I'm doing. Same thing when you're detecting on the beach. If you get a lot of people coming up to you, curious, thinking that you just found something when they hear your detector going off. But anyhow, another reason that I like headphones is I think it gives you more of a finger on the pulse. I listen to that threshold level. I've got that turned up. It's that hum in your ears. So if I've got some discrimination on and I've got that threshold level, that's a good signal right there. It's a 62. But I listen to that hum. When I go over something and that hum is broken, that sound is broken, it may not give me a tone on my detector, but it's just a break in that sound. A lot of times that's iron or something I've got discriminated out. But I hear it still because it breaks that steady hum. A lot of times you can't hear that if you don't have headphones on. Plus, there's just a lot of deep targets that I can catch. Is that a piece of wire that I'm seeing right there? That's good. Yeah, it's some wire. But without headphones, personally, I don't feel like I don't hear all of those like subtle sounds that I do with my headphones on. You're gonna get the obvious stuff with no headphones, but personally, I think you're gonna miss some of the little quiet sounds that you need to pick up on. A lot of my Civil War permissions are quite a drive. You gotta get up early and hit the road. Don't get as much time. Well, don't get as much time as I'd like in these winter months, because I usually have to leave around 4 p.m. because sun's gonna start going down. But it's worth it. A lot of people, Civil War relics are a bucket list item for them, and most detectorists never get the opportunity to dig for Civil War relics. So that is not lost on me. I know I'm fortunate to live out here, and not just live out here, but a lot of people that are out here don't have permission to dig where there's Civil War activity. A lot of people don't know that there's areas that had Civil War activity, because you're not just looking for battlefields. The battlefields are protected. Most is owned by the state, by the American Battlefield Trust. So the battlefields, quote unquote, are off limits. Good target, but it's up at the surface, so. So yeah, you really got to do your research, because aside from battlefields during the Civil War and the Revolutionary War, there were skirmishes everywhere. So by doing research and finding where these places are on private property, then you can try to get permission. And they're just really few and far between. But just because you, well, here we go, aluminum. Just because you live in the South doesn't mean you're going to be able to walk out the door with your detector and start digging belt plates and bullets, because it's just not that way. The name of the game, I'm sure wherever you live, is having permissions, having good permissions. But yeah, takes a lot of time to research things and kind of think out of the box of how to even research stuff. Field reports, old letters. Word of mouth is big too. Family land that's been in people's families for generations. They pass down information. That's where a lot of this stuff comes from. I've heard from people, growing up when they were older people, growing up when they were kids, talk about how they would find Civil War relics out in the field. One old guy told me that he was working with his dad out in the field, and he said it was nothing to hit something, pick up either a bomb fragment. He told me once it was a full cannonball that he picked up and tossed into the ditch on the outside of the field. But he said that's just the way it was. That's crazy to me. So yeah, just kind of figuring out where things were and where things happened, where troop movements were. A lot of times you can't just open a textbook and look at a map. The authors, the way I look at it is the authors of these textbooks, they had to figure it out too. They had to do the research. So I am fortunate. I've got really good permissions. I've built good relationships with a lot of people. I'm respectful of their property and of them and of their privacy. There's a lot of permissions that I have with Civil War areas that, I'm not telling anyone, because the property owner has asked that I not tell anyone else that I got permission. A lot of these, I've had several where the owners have said that they've always said no to people metal detecting on their land, and that their family, going back generations, has always told people no. I mean, you didn't have metal detectors a long time back, but they've been around for a while. So yeah, if you get a permission like that, I would say any permission period that you get, permissions period are hard to get. It takes you getting out there and a lot of times knocking on doors. I know a lot of people are intimidated by that, and they don't. They assume that a person's just going to say no and slam the door. And a lot of times that's exactly what happens. But you don't know until you try. In my experience, I have been surprised a lot where people have said yes. People have said yes way more than they've told me no. But once you get your permission, wherever it is, you can lose it just as quick not burying your holes, destroying your grass. I hate that. Dig a good plug. Try to leave one section of the plug still connected to the grass so that it grows back and doesn't create a ring in their lawn. But yeah, lots of things. You'll lose a permission if you get permission and then next thing they know you're pulling up with a bunch of friends. That's not going to happen with most people. You're going to lose that permission. I have a permissions book that I made. It's a 3-ring binder, and each one of my permissions, I made a cover page where I have all their contact information, the date that I made contact, the date that they gave me permission, who I spoke with. So I made a cover sheet. So behind that cover sheet, I print off a color map of their property. I have an app that shows me the property lines, and they highlight the property lines in red. So I print that off so it shows the boundary property lines in red. I put that in there. Any research that I do, any old deeds. Obviously, if I get any aerial photos, but if you research deeds, I put all that in there. And I have that for each one of my permissions. And on my cover sheet, I also have a section for notes. So if I want to make a note, what we got here? It's good to have if anyone ever challenges you on if you have permission. I mean, you don't have to explain yourself. If some Karen from down the road comes up barking at you, asking why you're there, it's none of their business, honestly. But there's situations where I've had situations where family members have passed away, and now the heir or the descendant or whatever, I've got proof. I can show it to them, and a lot of times you've got to get new permission. But yeah, I have that book. Yeah, I like it. So this is a lead shot. This, compared to what we found earlier, that was more modern. This is not. This is brown. It's got that brown crust underneath it. It's going to be that white oxidation that old lead has, and then just the way it's shaped, how irregular it is. It's got a little dimple on it too that I can see. Yeah, right there. That's old. That's really old. That could be, I don't know. I don't think that musket balls were this small. I don't, but a lot of rounds, I know Civil War, they had the bucking ball where they have 3 little lead shots just like that, just exact same size, that were wrapped in a paper shot and everything, that had a big lead ball and then 3 little ones just like this. You find these all over the place in Civil War ground. That's cool. We'll save that. So I've wanted to do a video for a long time on the topic of getting permissions. I think there's a lot of misconceptions and bad information out there. I've watched videos that people have done on getting permissions. Whatever works for you. But I've just heard some things that are just ridiculous that I would never do. I do not want to be a pest to the property owner. And most property owners don't want you to be a pest. They didn't have you in their life before you knocked on their door. And a lot of them don't care too. Not in a bad way, just that, You know, I look at it as, how would I feel if someone knocked on my door and wanted to go dig in my backyard and show up whenever they want to go back there and dig some more? So that's why I just want to be as quiet as I can. I want to be in and out. I don't want to disturb anyone. Now, I ask people, do you want me to show you what I found? What do you, and everyone, I'm telling you, everyone has just said they don't really care, or that they, you know, if you find something really cool, they wouldn't mind taking a look at it. But I've heard people give the advice that, like, every time they find something, they're knocking on their door after every hunt, showing the property owner. And it's like, you know, if they specifically requested that, I don't know. I've never had a property owner ask that. But another piece of lead shot, another piece of old lead shot. And I think the point that a lot of these people are trying to make, their thinking behind that, is that they don't want to be sneaky. They don't want the property owner to think that they're finding sacks of gold and not telling them, but that's just not the case. Another big thing is, you want to be as least intrusive as you possibly can when you're asking for permission. If you come up to a door and you say, hey, will you let me and 10 of my buddies metal detect in your property? They're going to laugh at you as they're slamming the door, because that's really intrusive and overwhelming. Another thing is, I'm never going to knock on a door with anybody but me. I think about myself at home. I think about my wife. If a stranger knocks on your door, you're already kind of, your guard is up. But if you've got 2 or more people, I wouldn't want that at my house. I think it's stupid. I think it's way too intimidating for the property owners. So I do it by myself. I have a form that I made for like a release of liability for detecting on their property. I have given that out twice. Only twice. I do not offer that up to people when I get permission. The reason is, I've seen people put videos. I think it's just my personal opinion. I think it's a dumb idea. You got to tread lightly when you're asking for permission. So whipping out the clipboard and asking, sign here, initial here, I would not do that. I don't want them giving me permission. I don't want that to feel like it's some kind of legally binding agreement that they're entering into. Again, it goes back to being as least intrusive as you can. So, although I have that form in my truck, I have copies of that in my permission book. I'm not going to throw paperwork out and ask people to sign things. But I've had 2 different situations where I'm trying to get permission. They're kind of unsure. They're hemming and hawing a little bit. And they brought up the fact of, you know, what happens if you get hurt when you're on my property and then I'm liable. And I say, well, I've got a form that I'm more than happy to sign away my life that says that if I ever get hurt on your property, that you're not liable. So that sealed the deal in 2 different situations. But again, it's not something I'm going to throw out to a property owner right away. I talk about When I first knock on the door, I tell them who I am. I tell them that I live locally, or, you know, if I live locally, and that I'm interested in history, and ask if they could tell me, you know, I saw your old barn, or your house looks really old. Do you think you can maybe fill me in on the history about your property? And I found that people with family land, people that have been there, or just people that own historical homes or properties, they're proud to talk about it. So I have conversations like that because I'm interested in that too. That's the main reason I metal detect, is because I'm interested in the history. But I'll usually sit and talk with the property owner about that, the history that they know of the area, of their property, before I even ask about metal detecting. So once they've kind of relaxed with me and we're talking about the history, then I ask if I, you know, would you mind, as a hobby, I metal detect, would you mind if I metal detected your property? And then I usually don't pause for that long. I just go right into it and tell them that, look, my goal is to where I can come in and metal detect and leave, and you won't even know that I was here. I bury my holes, I carry out whatever trash that I find, and I am not going to bother you, if at all possible. And that seems to work for me. And I ask them, I had one person ask me, they said, well, what are you going to do if you find a bag of gold out in the field? And I laughed and I said, first off, I'm not going to find a bag of gold in your field. But on the off chance, I will be knocking on your door, and I give you my word, I will let you know if I find a big old bag of gold. But I ask them, do you want me to, you know, do you have any interest? Do you want me to show you whatever I find, or what do you? And they usually say, nope. I've had them tell me, whatever you find and dig up, have fun and enjoy. So, and I tell people too that, look, the majority of what I dig all day long is a bunch of soda cans. And I tell them, I'm not looking for some lost treasure out here. If I find I tell them, if I find an old penny out there, that would make my day. And most people laugh. Most people laugh at that. You know, because what do they care about some old penny? A lot of people could care less. But that's just my opinion on all this stuff. But I can tell you that I have very good permissions. I have permissions where the people have told me that they've always told people no. I've only been told no. I think I can count it on literally one hand, the times that I've been told no. And I thank them for their time. I have a little business card that I made up that's got my picture. It's got my contact information, and it says right there, my retirement hobby is metal detecting. I enjoy history, you know, and my hobby is metal detecting for fun and exercise. So I give that to them. So I actually had one person call me back like a month later. I did not expect that. But like a month later, they called and said, yep, feel free to metal detect out there whenever you want. But I put a picture on my card, and I tell people this, and they give me permission. I give them my card. Here, you know how to contact me. My picture is right there on it. So if you've got other family members, you want to tell your wife, your husband, your kids, whoever, the neighbor, you can show them this so they know what the bald dude with the metal detector is doing on your property. So put in the comments, what do you guys think about that? If you disagree, put it in the comments. If you have other suggestions, not only for me, but for people, other people watching these videos on getting permissions. I do what I do based on experience and results. And with talking with people. Like I said, I have relationships with property owners where they've told me stories of people that have asked for permission to metal detect that they've told no. And some of them are just ridiculous. The attempts that these people made thinking that they were that was gonna work with the property owner. And I've had property owners tell me that in the past years that they've let people metal detect and that they had issues with them. Things like leaving gates unlocked, not burying holes, leaving big chunks of iron on top of the ground. All right, there's a 38. See a lot of new people make comments. I've seen them make comments online, on Facebook, on YouTube, on a lot of stuff where they just don't know, and that's why they just don't. I think that they need to be more informed, but I just don't think there's a lot. They need to be told about permissions. I see people post and say, hey, I just bought my first metal detector, where can I go to find stuff? And it's just crickets, because no one's going to say anything, or they'll have smart aleck comments, which isn't cool. Come on, man, what the heck did I just... And at first they don't understand why it doesn't work that way. Why people are not just gonna... Why people guard... It's secretive, and people guard the property and the permissions that they have. It's not that they're stingy. It's not... The first thing I tell people you got to understand is that's private property. It's not like they're keeping a secret that they're going down to the park around the corner. That's private property that someone owns. It's not your property. It's not their property to give out. Where the heck is this? What is that? Is that a head stamp, shotgun head stamp? Yeah. But yeah, that's something I've always seen online that new people aren't made aware of. And they get ticked because, you know, people are rude. I don't like that when people are rude with the comments. But I've also seen new people get rude and nasty, saying, oh, you're one of those people that guard their permissions and are stingy and don't want to let anyone else know. Well, I don't think they understand why that is. And I've told people that when you do your research and you've spent a lot of time figuring out property and you've gotten off the couch and knocked on the door, or you've had the door slammed in your face several times and you finally get one that says yes. And I think all permissions are just kind of barely dangling by a string, because you can get kicked off just as quick. But once you do all of that, and you've put the time in to do all of that, I tell newer people that of course you're going to be protective. Not just being protective, but you put the time in to get that permission. And most of the time it's a situation where it's not their permission to give out. So I think that's important for new people to know metal detecting. I think once they understand that, then it kind of makes sense. So yeah, give me your thoughts. Put a comment down there. Be respectful, but this is all about getting permission to metal detect, to be able to walk out your door and go metal detecting whenever you have time to do it. You've got places to go. In some situations, and there's nothing wrong with that, your local park is your go-to place. Check your town or your city ordinance, your county ordinance, to make sure that you're allowed to metal detect in the parks. But you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said in the very beginning of this little speech, is I know that I'm fortunate to be able to dig on Civil War land, and I know that most people don't. Even people that live around here don't have permissions like that. So I know that I'm fortunate in that regard. So if you're just digging parks, if you're going to the beach, I mean, that's all cool. Nothing wrong with that. But it's all about those permissions. The way I look at it too, when it comes to like farms, big chunks of land, it doesn't have to be someplace that had some big battle on it or something. If you know that there was human activity and traffic on this farm, on this land, then it's worth metal detecting. Period. Because if people walked, traveled, whatever, on a piece of property, then they probably dropped something. So it's worth detecting. Now, I know out west, where it's all BLM land, and most people, I know out here in the south, most people don't even know what BLM land is. That's the Bureau of Land Management. Basically, the government owns all the property that isn't owned by somebody. So you can go out and metal detect on BLM land out west. That's, you know, you can't, if you find Native American artifacts, you're not supposed to pick up arrowheads, and you got to turn them in, or what, just different things like that. But if you're out looking for dropped silver dollars or whatever kind of relics, you know, you can just walk out, go out to BLM land, just walk out into the middle of the desert or whatever and have fun. But the thing is that when you're talking that much property in the middle of nowhere, there's a good chance that no one in the history of man has ever walked where you're walking, let alone drop something. So you have to do research to see if it's worth it. There's old ghost towns, there's out west, there's wagon trails, lots of things to research, places to go. But yeah, out here, if you see a farm, because here in the south, we're one of the original 13 colonies, so you got to think, we've occupied this as as a country, we've occupied this land since the beginning of, you know, when we were British colonies. So every piece of land in North Carolina is owned by someone. Everyone owns every stitch of land out here. So you got to get permission. But if you see a farm field, way before tractors were around to work the fields, it was done by hand. So just because a big battle wasn't on a piece of farmland, it's still worth detecting as long as you know that people were there. Oh my gosh. I was just going to say, this section right here has had so many arrowheads. Look at this. Dang. Oh my gosh, I think there's another one right there. But look at this right here. Look at that. Laying right on top. Uncovered in the rain. That's cool. I'm not an expert on this, but I think based on the shape, I think it's a Guilford, part of a Guilford. I could be wrong, but you see right here, you could see the break right there. Maybe it probably wasn't a Guilford actually. If it was connected right there and probably had the two little points to lash it around the arrow. That is cool. So let's see this. Right next to it. I don't know if this is anything, but I saw this. That's another point. Look at that. The end right there is broke off. Look at that. Man, right here. I found so many arrowheads right here. Alright, I'm going to crawl on my hands and knees because I see a piece of quartz sticking out of the ground. Nope, that's nothing. Alright, well cool. I'm going to walk around here just for a second. I got to get out of here, but with this rain, it's just uncovered all this stuff. Man, that is so cool. Yeah, just in this area right here specifically. Since last summer, I don't even know how many I found. But my plan is, after the rain, I'm going to get back out to some of my Civil War land. Just like a lot of people, my bucket list find is a Civil War belt buckle. And doggone it, I'm on property that I know it's out there. I just gotta go find it and dig it up. I found a piece, found an outside edge about a month ago. But I need to get back out there because it's gonna be all grown over come spring, and then I'll have to wait till next fall to detect it. But that's my plan. Spend tomorrow making videos. Then I'll be back out. So thanks for hanging with me. I look forward to the premieres where we can chat, and for the comments afterwards for people. Oh man, I'll break my ankle. And for the comments from people after the video's already premiered and it's just up on my YouTube page. I appreciate everyone watching. I know tons and tons of people are watching from overseas. I think people lose sight of that. Like, in metal detecting. I've seen it firsthand, especially when it comes to social media. I think some people have tunnel vision, and they don't realize that this is global. That is the coolest thing, to talk to people. I use a translator app and have conversations with people from all over the world who metal detect, to find out, what are you digging up in Brazil or in France or in like India and Indonesia, and it's crazy. But I think that's the coolest thing, that people are out there metal detecting. So again, thank you. Wish we could have found some more cool stuff, but I had fun. Hope you did too. And I'll see you on the next hunt.